Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum along with Siggy Guns, and welcome to Fantasy Football Fiends Week 2 Stardom and Situm Show, where we do the waiver wire picks, sleepers, and our starts and sits for Week 2 of the NFL season. And I want to get this out of the way first and foremost. We try our best to pronounce names of NFL players the best we can. Sometimes we slip, sometimes we make mistakes. It's what happens. We're not a team like on CBS Sports or ESPN where we have producers and editors to edit out things and to fix things for us. We do this show in pretty much one take. And that's how we roll. So we do apologize if we do make mistakes. It's great that you point them out, but just know that if you know what player we're talking about, then roll with that player. You don't have to correct us on the first name or whatever we're saying. We pretty much we pretty much understand. We just we try our best to not make mistakes, but it happens. It's what happens. So anyways, we're going to do our waiver wire picks first, and a lot of players last week stepped it up, and I'm going to go first actually for my first 3 waiver wire picks of the week, and I'll talk about the player. I'll talk about a player in a second. First is Allen Hurns from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Second is Justin Forsett. Third is Terrence West from the Browns. And we're talking about Hurns. Hurns killed the Eagles last week. He had like 110 yards receiving. I think it was like 9 catches. And he had like a couple touchdowns. He just came out of nowhere. And no one really I don't know if anyone really thought of him or anything like that. But he just had a tremendous game. And this week, I'm trying to figure out how the Jags are playing this week. Who are the Jaguars playing this week? I think it's the
Redskins.
The Redskins? And he might have another good game because the Redskins don't have that great of a pass defense, in my opinion. So I would definitely say he's a good waiver wire pickup. If you can get him, if you're at the bottom of your waiver wire, you need wide receiver help, pick up Allen Hurns.
I think he's a pretty good pickup. Also, the 3 I have, one might not be the A squad, and there's some names here that did make some noise. Obviously, Ingram. A lot of people didn't pick him up. That was your sleeper last week on the show. Yep. And he did real good, and he showed, if anything, that he was still going to be the goal line back. But they were using him a lot, like more so than Pierre Thomas. They counted on him for third downs. They even had him on for some plays, for even screen plays, everything. So it looks like the Saints really want him to be the guy going forward. So I think he's going to be a great pickup. Also, Ryan Quick from the St. Louis Rams. He looked real good once what's his name came in there, Austin, whatever. So correct me on the quarterback's name because I know that they lost the other quarterback.
Yeah, Sean Hill. Sean Hill was knocked out of the game like early, and all of a sudden they had a guy that I don't even know who he is. I don't even know. What is he? Stone Cold Steve Austin? What's his name?
I don't even I wouldn't say he's a good pickup, though, because, let's face it, the Rams' QB situation is a mess, and that offense doesn't look like it's all that. But horrible. He was targeted a lot, and he did, I think, almost get 90-some yards, maybe 89 or 90, I forgot what it was.
His name is Austin Davis.
Austin Davis, okay. And then the last guy is the tight end, Larry Donnell, who looked like he was the best wide receiver the Giants had on Monday night yesterday. Or whatever day you're watching this, on Monday night. Larry Donnell was actually a tight end, but he played like he was their receiver. And that might not be.
He was the only thing that he was the only bright spot.
He was the only bright spot, exactly. That could be the sad part about it, but it looked like he's going to get targets going forward. So he's also pretty good waiver wire pickup, especially when you tight end help.
Definitely. So let's get into our starts and sits for the week, and then we'll go into our sleepers. So who's your top 3 stardom quarterbacks for the week?
All right, so this one, I was going by some matchups, etc., and right now the Giants looked absolutely horrible all around on defense. Maybe their rushing defense is a little bit better than what I expected, but they definitely can't stop the pass. So Carson Palmer is my clear number one this week for start. He's good. He's already a good quarterback. That offense is already good. He already produced a lot of yards yesterday against the Chargers, and now all of a sudden you're gonna have him against the easy defense of the Giants. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. You start Carson Palmer. Jake Locker against the Cowboys, another defense that just looks absolutely horrible in the air. And he made your boy Colin Kaepernick look like a great quarterback. The Cowboys defense, not just playing. But I do think Locker's going to be another good one. And then Joe Flacco. Now, he might not have had a great game against the Cleveland the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. But he threw 62 passes.
Yeah, that was insane.
Just imagine if his receivers were able to catch a lot of those passes. I mean, if anything, it just shows that he's going to be somebody that's going to be throwing a lot of yards, and yards equals opportunity, and yards equals points in fantasy football. He's going to be a good fantasy quarterback. He might not be a great quarterback for the NFL or for that team in real life, but for fantasy-wise, you want somebody that's going to be up there throwing 40 to 60 passes a game, because that means a lot of points.
Yeah, definitely. For my top three, I have Jake Locker, just like you said, going against the Cowboys. Cowboys just don't have a pass defense. They look clueless. They look completely lost. I have Andy Dalton going against the Falcons. Drew Brees lit up the Falcons. Didn't get a lot of touchdown passes because they decided to run on the goal line situations this time. Finally, the Saints decided to run instead of pass. But Drew Brees did light him up. Drew Brees lights pretty much everyone up except for Seattle. But yeah, I look for Andy Dalton with A.J. Green and those boys receiving. I really like Andy Dalton this week. And Ryan Tannehill going against the Bills. Jay Cutler did well against the Bills, minus the fact that Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffery got nicked up in that game. And Jay Cutler still had a pretty good game. Even though Brandon Marshall was in and out, and Alshon Jeffery was gone, I think after like the second quarter, which sucks for them. But I look for Ryan Tannehill to have a great day against the Bills in that secondary, who just they didn't look good either going against the Bears and minus receivers. Yep. So who's your running backs?
So on the starting running backs, again, I'm looking at matchup and stuff like that. Ingram. He showed a lot of promise with this in the Saints game against the Falcons, and I just think with the Browns they're playing next, we saw what Bell did against the Browns. He actually had a great game, and if the Saints continue to actually use their running backs in the goal line situation, Ingram should have another monster day against the Browns, because the Browns defense let the Steelers throw wild on them and run wild on them. So
yeah, I was
the
shocked.
Saints can easily have a 500-yard total offense plus game. And you figure with that, there's a lot of opportunities, to share the load or share the scoring and the meal, if you will. And I think Ingram's going to have a real good game. Chris Johnson against the Packers. Obviously, we saw what Marshawn Lynch did. The Jets rushing is still going to be, their main bread and butter, and they're going to be rushing the hell out of the Packers. I think CJ is still in line for some goal line carries, and he did get the touchdown last week like I figured. He didn't get quite the amount of yards I thought he would. Ivory did. Of course, it took him a big play to get that, but I think CJ2K should have a real good game against the Packers. And Arian Foster is back. He looked real good. A lot of people were hesitant. What kind of player would he be? He had 27 carries. He got 103 yards, I believe it was. And now he's up against the Raiders, who, like I said, Ivory and Johnson rushed all over them. And I think Arian Foster should have a real big game against the Oakland Raiders. So those are my three starts.
My three starts for running back are Arian Foster going against the Raiders, Bishop Sankey going against the Cowboys, and Montae Ball going against the Chiefs. Let's talk about Montae Ball. He actually had 23 carries last week. Didn't do a whole lot with it, but the Chiefs are all banged up. They lost a defensive tackle. They lost Derek Johnson for the year. They have lost a lot of players up front, and it just seems like I have just one of these feelings that Denver is going to run the ball on them. You don't have to pass as much on them when the team's hurting. You hit them in their weak spot, and Peyton Manning, that he's the number one study of a weak spot. Even if he doesn't have to pass that much, he does. They do run the ball a lot more than people think, and I think Montae Ball is going to have a really good game this week. Probably 100 yards and a couple touchdowns, maybe rushing the ball, because if they get down to that goal line area, he'll be the one punching it in. So
yeah, I can definitely see that.
Who's your wide receivers?
My wide receivers this week, I picked Fitzgerald, Brandin Cooks, or I'm sorry, is it Brandin Cooks? Yeah, Brandin Cooks.
Brandin Cooks from the Saints.
I
Yeah.
wanted to say Brian Cooks for some reason, and Antonio.
No, it's
Brown.
okay. Don't worry. The fans will correct us.
Yeah, and the last one was Antonio Brown. I'm going to talk about Cooks. Cooks looked awesome for the Saints. He looked like he might be somebody that's a Percy Harvin type of role. Not only can he line up in the outside, he can line up in the slot. They can use him probably eventually down the road as a decoy or a rushing like they do with Patterson out of Minnesota. He's somebody that's an all around wide receiver that the Saints can really use a lot since they lost Sproles. They've been kind of trying to find somebody in that
He's
role.
like a better Darren Sproles.
And he can be everything that they want him to be. And I think Cooks has the potential to just explode Antonio Brown-like potential. So I like Cooks a lot this week.
Yeah, my wide receivers are Michael Floyd, Anquan Bolden, and Mike Wallace. And I'm going to talk about Michael Floyd. He actually had a great game last night for the Cardinals, and I was actually shocked that they didn't target Fitzgerald as much. But I don't know if it was a thing that San Diego schemed to get Fitzgerald out of the game, so Michael Floyd just got a lot more opportunities. But if that's the case, and they had to double team Larry Fitzgerald all the time, because you pretty much had to double team Larry Fitzgerald, or had to have a really good cover corner to cover him, because he's just such a great route runner and he's just excellent hands. But Michael Floyd proved that he can be an excellent number one wideout as well. He was catching balls all over the place on San Diego, and I like him going against that giant secondary, who, if they try to take out...
Let's admit, that's the reason why I picked Fitzgerald. I mean, you nailed it on the head. That's why I picked Carson Palmer. The Giants aren't going to be able to double Fitzgerald
both of them. I think both of them might get 100 yards receiving, because Tate was killing the Giants as well. I see Michael Floyd and Fitzgerald having good games this week, because the Giants can't cover anybody. So yeah, those are my three picks, and yeah, the whole Cardinals team.
The whole Cardinals team.
So who's your tight ends? Who's your tight ends for the week?
All right, tight ends for the week. I picked Antonio Gates, I picked Dennis Pitta, and I picked Martellus Bennett. And I'm going to talk about Gates because I know he's up against the Seahawks, and I know that's going to be probably the toughest thing in the world. But San Diego, they looked at throwing to him, I think, 11 times. So he's still the man, even with the new season, new age. He's older. He still looks like the offense runs through him in the air. And Phillip Rivers throws a lot. So as long as Antonio Gates is getting looks, he should get a lot of points. And in regards to the Seahawks, their corners are going to be covering all the receivers. I'm not sure if they're going to necessarily come up to cover Gates. So I think Gates actually has an opportunity, at least in the first half, until they do adjustments, to have a pretty good game.
I like for my three tight ends, I like Zach Ertz, Delanie Walker, and Jermaine Gresham. Now the tight end for Cincinnati, the other tight end, Tyler Eifert, went down. So I think Jermaine Gresham is the guy right now. I think he dislocated his elbow. I'm not sure, but I believe he dislocated his elbow. So I think Jermaine Gresham obviously is the man again, and he's proven that he can play ball in Cincinnati. So I'm not really worried about him. But Delanie Walker up against the Cowboys with pretty much, you saw what Vernon Davis did to him last week, getting wide open and would have had more yards actually if it wasn't for a few penalties called back. So look for Delanie Walker to capitalize on a horrible Cowboys defense. Just like we were talking about the Giants, the same with the Cowboys. They just have no defense. Oh yeah. So
both of them looked horrible.
So I think Delanie Walker is going to capitalize big time this week, and he's going to have a pretty good game against them. Who's your top three defenses?
My top three defenses, I picked Minnesota, I picked Arizona, and I did pick, originally I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Redskins, but I guess I'll go ahead and leave it there. I think there's more of a sleeper type of defense, but we'll talk about Minnesota against the Patriots. Now, a lot of people, when you look at a schedule and you see Patriots against anybody, you're going to be afraid to play that defense. But the Vikings defense actually looked pretty good. Now, granted that we're playing the Rams, and the Rams have some QB issues. but it looked like their defense just looked revamped. Like I don't know how to explain it. It didn't look like it was like necessarily like the Panthers, how when they were playing the Bucks, how it looked like they were expected to be good. I didn't expect the Vikings defense to do good even with the situations in St. Louis, and they looked good. And considering how bad Tom Brady played, and then the Vikings are at home, it almost looks like it's just too good to be true that this might be a real good game for the Vikings. And all the Tom Brady owners are going to be like, what the hell is wrong with Brady after this week? So that's the reason why I picked
they were saying that
there.
last year too. Remember the first few weeks Brady was struggling, and then all of a sudden he starts coming back. He came back strong towards the end of the year, but he was struggling at the beginning too. So that's what happens. Plus they pretty much trading his whole offensive line away. And what happens? What happens? Cameron Wake happened last week to him.
Yep.
That's what happens when you trade key members of your offensive line away.
And the only reason why I had Jacksonville, like I said, was more of a sleeper thing. The Redskins just look bad on offense too. I'm not sure how long RG3 is going to last the way he's been playing. He's just a frustrating quarterback right now. I don't know. It's not the talent. It's not that he can't make the throws. He's just frustrating to watch. I don't know.
He can't make the reads.
His
passes are inaccurate. He seems to not make reads when he runs. He's not like running. He's not like running the way he was running last time, like the way he judges the run, like when he should run. It's just he's off. Something's wrong with him. He's off. Maybe he should stop concentrating on making commercials and concentrate on football. I don't know. I can't figure it out with him either. But
it was crazy. And then Jacksonville, I know that they fell apart at the end. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that was an offense that is well run. The Philadelphia Eagles. So Redskins are definitely not no Eagles.
Yeah, definitely. And my three defenses this week are the Texans, the Bucks, and the Broncos going against the Chiefs. And I'm going to talk about the Broncos. They played really well first half and pretty much mid-third quarter. And then Andrew Luck just started picking them apart, it seemed like, towards the end. And then they had to hang on. But they played very, very well. They played great as a unit, and I think they're only going to get better as the season wears on, with Aqib Talib and Raheem Moore back, and the addition of DeMarcus Ware, man, he can pressure the quarterback. My goodness, he's off the line. He still has an amazing first step off the line. Did you see how he just takes off as soon as the ball snaps? He's so quick that it's hard to catch up to him when he goes around. So I don't know, with him and Von Miller chasing quarterbacks, I fear for Alex Smith this week. And that's why I'm picking the Broncos, because Alex Smith was getting killed last week by Tennessee. He's getting literally killed last week. Or was it Texans? Texans.
The Chiefs
Tennessee.
Were playing
it was the Titans. Yeah, the Titans killed him. He was he looked horrible. So against Denver, I just look for the Chiefs not to have that start like they had last week. So I think Denver's going to kill him, to be honest with you.
I can see it.
All right, let's get into the sit-ems. Who's your three sit-em quarterbacks this week?
So I'm going to pick some names here that a lot of people are probably like, what are you talking about? Phillip Rivers, I think, is going to have a bad game, obviously, against the Seahawks. I mean, we saw Aaron Rodgers struggle against him, and Rivers struggled against the Cardinals, especially at the end of the game, and he's not going to have any better luck against the Seahawks. Even though he's at home, I think that's going to be tough. I'll also have Matthew Stafford. Yes, that's Stafford, who tore it up against the Giants. The Panthers are a little different animal. They're playing at home. They're always tough at home. They're almost like they have Seahawks-esque defense at home, and I see Stafford struggling. I don't necessarily think they'll lose, but I see them struggling. And then Tom Brady, like I said earlier, the Vikings defense at home just looks better on paper than what I thought, and they showed me enough to think that Tom Brady's going to continue to struggle against the Vikings. So just for this week, maybe. So hopefully, Tom Brady does snap out, because I got him on a lot of my teams.
For my three sit-em quarterbacks this week, I have Alex Smith, Matt Ryan, and Matthew Stafford. And Alex Smith, obviously, I just talked about him. He had a rough game against the Titans, and imagine going up against the Broncos' newly vaunted defense. And I have Matt Ryan, who had a great game against the Saints, but the Bengals are not the Saints. The Bengals have a great pass defense, and they're going to be all over those wide receivers. And if you can't run the ball, and Bengals are excellent at stopping the run. So if you can't run the ball and you can't use that play action of those receivers, they're going to have a hard time. I think Matt Ryan's going to struggle this week. And I also have Matthew Stafford. I feel the same way. The Panthers defense and at home going against Megatron and company, Megatron might get some, but I still see the Panthers shutting down Matthew Stafford this week. Not like the Giants making him look like he was Joe Montana out there and Dan Marino.
Exactly.
So who's your running back sit-ems this week?
I have Ryan Matthews, I have Eddie Lacy, and I have Reggie Bush. And we already talked about Bush with the Panthers, or, Lions, Panthers. That's the reason I have him. Ryan Matthews, even though, he did pretty good the game yesterday.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown. They didn't even run him hardly. It was annoying.
It
was annoying to watch.
Though.
He did get the touchdown run, but
yeah.
He had 13 carries. It was ridiculous. They didn't even run the ball. They got to stop this passing that they keep doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're definitely underutilizing him. I picked Eddie Lacy, and I told you I just didn't have trust in him, and sure enough, up against the Seahawks, he laid an egg. And the Jets isn't going to be any easier. Yes, he's at home, but I think the offense, like I said from the beginning of the year, that they're a pass-first team, and I even tried to tell you this in that show.
Yeah.
It even looked like they didn't. I don't know what the.
No, they tried to run.
Here.
They tried to
run. They didn't trust him for third downs, and that's what I thought they were using the most in it. And
yeah, they tried to run. They tried. It's just Seattle's good, man.
No, I understand that, but even though Starks had a lot of carries that I thought he wasn't going to be getting.
Yeah, I think Lacy got a little banged up. He had the concussion. He had the concussion.
The Jets can actually stop the run though, and this is I know I have my Jets hat on, but the Jets actually have real good run defense.
I have Reggie Bush as well going against the Panthers. They stuffed the run. That's just a given. And that goes for Joique Bell as well because he's going to have a hard time against that Panthers defense as well. Steven Jackson going against the Bengals. I just talked about them having a tough run defense. And Jammal Charles against the Broncos. I think Jammal Charles is opening up the season with bad luck. He's playing some teams that can stop the run, and the Broncos is another one of those teams that can stop the run. You saw what they did to Indianapolis. I know, granted, it's Trent Richardson is no Jammal Charles, but they stopped Ahmad Bradshaw as well. They stopped whoever the Colts threw at him. And I just look.
Yeah, Luck was the only one that rushed it. Looked like they did any good.
Yeah, I mean the Broncos run defense has never really been that. It doesn't really break that off. They've always had a pretty good run defense. They have a great front seven, and I don't see it changing this week unless they're trying to run some screen plays with Jammal Charles, which most teams now, like I said, are studying now. Alex Smith in that screen game, and they know that he does short passes, so it's like they're playing them up more a little bit. So I think Jammal Charles is going to struggle this week. Who's your wide receiver sit-ems?
Patterson. I'm not even going to try to say his first name because I'll say Corduroy Pants if I say it. So. Patterson, Victor Cruz, and Steve Smith Sr. now, since he changed his name. And I'll go ahead and talk about Steve Smith. He had a great game against the Bengals, but like I said, he threw the ball 62 times, 15 targets to Steve Smith. Really, the one play is what got him a lot of the yards. I think it was like a 76-yard bomb, I think. I don't know what he got. It was
a pretty long bomb.
And I just think that he'll come back down to earth a little bit, and then I eventually think it'll still be Torrey Smith, Pitta that get the bulk of the looks. And I think a lot of people might be high on him now. Oh man, they're gonna be, they looked at him 15 times. I wouldn't put a lot of stock in it. And against the Steelers, I don't trust them.
My right. Oh, by the way, it's Cordero Patterson.
Cordero.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Cordarrelle Patterson. I think, and I actually was one of them. But it's Cordero Patterson. That's what I believe his name is like. That's what I think.
I call him Corduroy Patterson.
Corduroy Patterson. I like that better actually. So my wide receiver sit-ems this week are actually Cordero Patterson, Roddy White, and Alshon Jeffery. Alshon Jeffery might not even play. He's a little banged up from that Bills game, and they said it wasn't a big deal, his hamstrings or whatever, but we all know that usually hamstring injuries come back, they flare back up, and he's going against a 49er team that pretty much they shut Des Bryant down.
Yep.
They shut Des Bryant down. They shut pretty much the whole Dallas receiving core down. I mean, they were getting the ball here and there to people, but for the most part, the 49ers did very well in coverage. And they have a lot of players that just stepped up. And I know they're banged up a little bit, but so is Alshon Jeffery. And the Bengals, I think they're going to really do their best to take Roddy White out of the game. Julio Jones just always is going to get his, but Roddy White's, I think, the key guy you got to shut down as well, because Julio Jones, like I said, you can cover him and everything. They'll probably double team him, but I think Roddy White's the guy they're going to take out. So, and of course, Patterson's going to be on Revis Island. He got a little beat by Mike Wallace last week, so he's going to look to rebound and show Patterson what he's made of. So, those are my three. Who's your tight ends?
Tight ends, I got your boy Vernon Davis. I got Gronkowski and then Reed, and I'll go ahead and talk about Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis had a great game, and he's going to be probably still the focal point around the red zone. But I think Michael Crabtree has got to be upset that he didn't have much action, and I just have a feeling against the Bears that the receivers are going to be the ones getting a bulk of the action, and Davis is just going to be looked at more in the end zone. So because of that chance, I have Vernon Davis as he still should do good, but I just don't think he's going to be what you might expect out of your tight ends.
Okay. My three sit-ems this week are Martellus Bennett going against the 49ers. You saw what they did to Jason Witten last week, who was actually my sit last week as well. And he going against the 49ers.
Sit against your 49ers.
Patrick Willis can cover tight ends. I don't know what it is with Patrick Willis, but whenever he's assigned to a tight end, he just covers him well. I think there's only been like a couple occasions where he's not had a good game against tight end, but he's just a tight end stopper. Jason Witten, I'm sitting him again against the Titans, and Jared Cook going against the Bucks. There's just nobody to throw the ball to Jared Cook. I mean, I don't. We talked about their problems in offense, and I just don't think he's going to get the ball as much. I mean, he made a catch last week for I think his only reception or maybe his second reception. And he had to basically make a miracle catch just to get that reception. So it's just there's threw the ball up and he happened to catch it. But I don't see him doing well against the Bucs defense. So those are my three. But who's your defenses?
That was the
sit-em
transition.
defenses.
The sit-em defenses, without a doubt, is going to be Dallas against the Titans, Cleveland against the Saints, and then the Buccaneers defense is a lot tempting people to go ahead and play because they're playing the Rams, but I just don't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is any good this year, because they let a journeyman, Derek Anderson, who had no business, who had no receivers, no playbook memorized, literally walked off the street and threw for he had a pretty good game against the Bucs. Yeah. So while the Rams look like they're the worst team entering this game, I don't trust the Bucs defense at all. So be very careful about that potential to be like, man, this looks like it could be really good. I don't see it. So that's why I have him in my sit list.
My three defenses are the Jets going against the Packers. I know you like the Jets this week, but not going against Aaron Rodgers. That's a bad man, like Stephen A. Smith says. And Aaron Rodgers is going to look to rebound from that whooping that Seattle put on him. And the Chiefs, of course, going against Peyton Manning and company. A lot of people want to start the Chiefs. If you have them, don't. I actually have the Chiefs defense. I am sitting them this week. Trust me. And the Ravens going against the Steelers. I know the Ravens and Steelers always play tough, but that Steelers offense looks good. They can run the ball again and pass the ball, and that's dangerous. Especially with Ben Roethlisberger back there, and he was making plays again, and he's got that receiver in Antonio Brown. They run that screen game, and you saw him. He took off of a screen. Yep. I mean, Antonio Brown is electric. So I mean, with that kind of receiver out there, you can pretty much run the ball anywhere you want if they put him in motion. So I really like the Steelers this week against the Ravens, and I think they're gonna have a difficult time stopping the Steelers. Period.
Yep.
So now let's get into our sleepers to end the show. And who's your three sleepers this week?
Well, you just touched up on him, Ben Roethlisberger, and we didn't even talk about him on the waiver wire pickup, but fantasy wise, he looks like he could be just as good as all these other guys that are in the lower tier, quarterback 1 people like Andy Dalton, etc. Roethlisberger has an offense that loves to spread the ball around, and they have a good running game now. And I just think fantasy-wise, you're looking at somebody that has some Tony Romo look to him in regards to fantasy numbers. And that's a great sleeper against the Ravens. We saw that Dalton killed them. I actually think Roethlisberger is a better quarterback than Dalton. I actually think that he has better weapons than Dalton, because all Dalton has is A.J. Green, really, and maybe Bernard if you count that as a weapon. But I think he's going to be great. And then some of my other sleepers are Toby Gerhardt against the Redskins, and the Michael Floyd against the Giants was going to be my third one.
Well, my 3 sleepers are Carlos Hyde going against the Bears. He looked explosive. My goodness, Frank Gore was running the ball hard as usual. But the way Frank Gore is getting a little older, the way Frank Gore used to look when he was young is how Carlos Hyde looks. My goodness, he looks so fast and explosive through the line.
I told you, man. I told you.
And it would not surprise me by the end of the year Hyde be the starter, or even just taking the bulk of the carries, because how can you keep him on the bench? I have no clue. Frank Gore has been, he's a great running back. He's still good. He just doesn't look as explosive as Hyde. And Hyde just looks like he can break anything at any point. But and going against the Bears defense this week, who cannot stop the run. The Bills ran for like 190-something yards against them. I see Carlos Hyde and Frank Gore going off this week. And he did score a touchdown last week. I have Justin Hunter as well going against the Cowboys. And he got a lot of targets his way last week as well, including end zone targets. So I like him against the Cowboys, and Charles Clay against the Bills for Miami. Charles Clay got a lot of targets last week against New England, dropped a couple I think in the end zone, but against that Bills defense, I see Tannehill throwing the ball out to him, especially they're going to have a lot of red zone opportunities. Anyways, guys, don't forget to leave comments in the comment section, feedback. You can talk about all of our mistakes this week, all the pronunciation mistakes and all the things that we did wrong, all the picks that we had wrong, and then how we're crazy. Oh, and another thing, we do not talk about the elites. So for our sleepers and stuff like that, and for our top stardoms, we don't really pick like the main guys unless we put them for sit-em usually, but we don't talk about the main players and I'm talking about the high fantasy ranked players. Like we always say, if there's a Peyton Manning, if it's Drew Brees, you start them unless they're going, of course, against Seattle. Like we talked about Phillip Rivers this week. He was one of the elite quarterbacks last year. We said we're going to sit him this week. Even I would sit him this week. But I'm saying, like, we don't talk about the top players. So if you're going to make comments saying, I can't believe you don't have Megatron as your top wide receiver. Well, he is our top wide receiver, and he is always a must start.
Look at the ticker below. Our ticker below would represent, our top players for each position.
Yeah.
And
our ticker, we change it every week, though. We do change the ticker every week based on who we think is going to do good that week. So as you see down there, our rankings for quarterbacks and wide receivers and everybody else, that's for week 2. We change it week 3.
Yep.
So everything always changes each week depending on the matchups and depending on who we think is better. So if you see Peyton Manning one week, number 1, and all of a sudden you see him at number 15 because he's going against Seattle, that's why. So it's not that we're crazy and we think he's the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. It's that for that week, that's how we rank them. So pay attention to how we do the show. Pay attention to, and we talk about those things. A lot of people don't talk about that kind of stuff. They like to roll with the big boys, and they like to roll with those kind of things and say, oh, you got to start Calvin Johnson this week. Well, duh. Everybody knows you got to start Calvin Johnson this week.
It's too easy to sit here and pick 3 names. I'm just going to pick 3 starts as Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers, and then not give you anything. We're trying to give you people that are the tough choice. So where if you, instead of asking the question on, say, Twitter or in the comment section, do I start Joyce Bell or do I put No Sean Moreno this week? This is why we do this. We just basically said that the Lions are going to struggle against the Panthers. So if you paid attention, then you would make the decision, the Bills should do bad against the Dolphins. Moreno should be the better choice against the Lions, or over the Lions. So that's why we make these kind of videos to try to make it to where names that are just kind of there in the third tier, your third running back, your fourth wide receiver, your third wide receiver, just to give you a better gauge of, who you should start over maybe somebody in your bench.
Exactly. So that's it, guys. Like I said, leave comments in the comment section, leave your feedback, and I hope you have a great fantasy football week for week 2. All right, and we'll stay tuned for any updates. If we get any updates on injuries or things like that, we'll put it up and we'll let you guys know what the fantasy impact is, especially like the Ray Rice situation. So we won't talk about it, but Ray Rice is gone, so that's another thing that where we talked about Justin Forsett. So.
Oh, actually, we do need to talk about something real quick before we go.
Okay.
The NFL drug policy might be changing today, and if you're watching this video, it might have already changed. So there could be potential that Josh Gordon, Wes Welker might be back early. So Josh Gordon is an interesting player, obviously, because a lot of people drop him, and this is a top wide receiver if he's playing. So if he has any chance of coming back, it might be worth to stash him in deep leagues in your spot just to see if this works out for him, because there is a better than 50% chance, they say, that he might come back as early as next week even. So
wow, that's crazy.
That's pretty big news right there. So keep an eye on that. It's definitely worth the shot. I mean, it's just a shot. You might have somebody that is not doing anything anyways. If you have a Hakeem Nicks, I always say drop him for a Josh Gordon just for that chance, because if he does play, Josh Gordon is up there in top 5 wide receivers every week.
I could see that, definitely.
Wanted to throw that out.
All right, thank you once again. I'll try to end the show. Thank you once again for watching. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the comments and all the stuff. We try to get to every comment. We might not be able to get to all of them because we do have full-time jobs that we also have, but we try to get to every comment. So, just be patient with us and we'll try to get to it. If not, tweet us. Tweet at Siggy V and at Optimus Magnum on Twitter. Tweet us together. One of us will respond. So if you just tweet one of us, I might be at work, Siggy might not be, so he might be able to respond. But if you tweet both of us, we can, one of us definitely is going to respond. So good luck this week in the NFL Week 2. And for Fantasy Football Fiends, JT Magnum and Siggy Guns, we out. Peace.